Hello, how are you? Do you happen to know someone who, even eating just a little, keeps gaining weight or has trouble losing the weight they want, feels weak, has muscle pain, or constantly feels bloated? This could be related to the consumption of a type of flour that's present in practically everything. Bread, cake, cookies, pasta, sauces, soup, ready-made meals, and many processed foods, but it's hidden in there. Sometimes we don't even notice. We don't even realize we're consuming flour. And this flour can also be linked to health problems like diabetes, inflammation, fatty liver, constipation, and even nutritional deficiencies. I'm going to tell you which flour this is, what problems it has been causing over time, and how to replace it in a healthier way. Stay until the end because you won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask you if you have the habit of consuming any type of flour in your daily diet. And which flour do you consume the most? Write it for me here in the comments. What city are you from? I know there's a difference in the consumption of more regional flours in different cities. Write that for me. I'd love to see your comment. Remember to like the video. That's not just important for this video here, no. It shows YouTube that you trust my content, that you like and support my channel, and that's super important to me. This flour, of course, is the white refined wheat flour. It's a flour that's very different from the flour your grandmother used to eat. Because some people say, oh, I don't know why this whole thing started now about not being able to eat flour because my grandmother ate flour, my grandmother ate bread, cake, pasta, and she didn't have weight problems. She didn't have these issues. The thing is, flour has changed, right? Over time, it went through genetic crossbreeding and industrial processes that changed the product that was consumed decades ago into the product we eat today. It became a flour much poorer in fiber and much richer in starch, which has a very high glycemic index and ends up having a big impact on our health overall. It's basically as if the flour we consume nowadays is absorbed and metabolized by our bodies almost like pure sugar. And every time we eat some of this flour, we get a spike in glucose, followed by a spike in insulin, which is the hormone that makes this glucose enter the cell. So this ends up being harmful to us because it can lead to high blood sugar, increased visceral fat, weight gain, and loss of muscle mass, which is basically the foundation of our vitality, our daily energy, and disposition. And we know that starting at around 50 or 60 years old, we have a greater tendency to lose muscle mass. So it's important that we manage to preserve this muscle mass and preserve our bodies from gaining too much weight, especially in this area here, the visceral central abdominal region, because the weight accumulated here in our visceral belly area can be related to an increased risk of diabetes type 2, fatty liver, and other serious associated metabolic problems. There are even studies that show that excessive consumption of wheat flour, people who eat diets very rich in wheat flour, can increase by 34% the risk of type 2 diabetes. So this is no joke. It's a very big impact. Besides that, we know that flour is closely linked to silent inflammation, right? Flour increases inflammatory markers. It ends increasing inflammation. Why does it increase inflammation? Because basically, as I told you, it increases the insulin spike, and repeated insulin spikes in our body can play an inflammatory role. This inflammatory role can harm skin aging, break down collagen, and negatively affect the rigidity of arteries and cause joint inflammation. So there are people who say, oh, I have a lot of joint pain, I have back pain, I feel pain all day long. If you look at the person's diet, it's a diet that's very rich in white, refined flour, and sometimes the person doesn't even realize that this has a direct impact on pain and these joint problems. On these issues, on this person's low-grade chronic inflammation, there's another point as well. The recurring consumption of large amounts of this white flour can alter our gut microbiota. In other words, it can encourage the growth of bad bacteria in our intestines and decrease the amount of good bacteria, because these bad bacteria love sugar. And since this white flour turns into sugar, into glucose very quickly, it's almost as if you're eating white sugar throughout your day without realizing that these things are interconnected. There's yet another important point. Since this flour turns quickly into glucose and is absorbed very rapidly, the body releases a lot of insulin and stores it in this region here, visceral, central, abdominal. There are many cases of people who are accumulating a lot of fat in the liver or in the area around the liver, leading to hepatic steatosis, sometimes fibrosis, cases of people who have never drunk alcohol. And they can even develop an initial process of liver cirrhosis due to poor diet, sedentary lifestyle, and insulin spikes, often related to excessive consumption of wheat flour. So, of course, this is a more advanced scenario. But it needs to be said, because this is happening more and more. We are increasingly seeing people with fatty liver problems and metabolic or hepatic issues related to diet, not always to alcohol consumption, which used to be the most common cause in the past. It's also worth noting that refined wheat flour is basically empty calories. just like refined white sugar is empty calories. You won't get even a minimal, meaningful amount of micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, or fiber from wheat flour. So, if there are other flours and products you could consume that aren't just empty calories and could actually nourish your body, why not make those changes, which are much better for your health? Good options for substitutions are to use flours with a lower glycemic impact. If you're still considering flours with a high or moderate carbohydrate content, you could go for chickpea flour or oat flour. These are flours that do contain carbohydrates, yes, but they also have protein and fiber, which helps slow down the absorption rate of the flour in your body. If you want to reduce the amount of carbohydrates even further, you can consider nut-based flours such as ground peanuts, ground almonds, and coconut flour, chia flour, or flaxseed flour. I have many videos here on the channel talking more about how to substitute regular flour and the benefits that come from it in your health, inflammation, blood sugar control, your gut, and much more. I'll leave these videos with practical substitution tips and talking about other healthy flours down below in the description for you. Let me know in the comments below. Did you know about this roll of wheat flour, that it actually isn't what it seems? It actually behaves like sugar in our bodies. And what are you going to do from today on? How are you going to change? I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, it really helps me out. And share this video with anyone who needs this information and will enjoy it. Let's work together to spread this chain of good. That's what I want here on the channel. See you next time. Bye.